You're watching NFL Daily, and today's show is presented by Magic Spoon. Before I break down some big-name players that didn't quite make the 53-man roster but ended up getting signed to some practice squads today, I got to give some love to Magic Spoon. They are an unbelievable company. Not only did they create healthy cereal, which just saying it out loud sounds wild, they've perfected it. So if you go to magicspoon.com/chat, you're going to be able to save $5 off your very first order. Now, coming up here on the show, we're going to be looking at top practice squad players. Now, obviously, yesterday is kind of a sad day for a lot of guys. You know, they're working really hard in the offseason. They're working really hard in training camp, and then they don't quite make the 53. So for some of these guys that don't end up getting signed or that don't getting claimed off waivers, they ended up signing on practice squads. What we're going to be looking at today is some of these top practice squad players. The first four names that are going to be popping up on your screen: Isaiah Hodgins, Dillon Stoner, Davis Sills, Rico, Bussey. One player that I was really excited to see find himself back on a practice squad, David Sills. I mean, it's a cool story, and for those of you that don't know it, I always encourage you to go ahead and look it up. I was talking to my man Marshall Green, who could be a surprise cut candidate, who's a fan favorite of the Giants. He gave me the name Davis Sills, so I was really excited to see him back on the team. Now, what about Dillon Stoner? Not only is it a name that I'm really high on, but this is also a player that I know the Raiders like a lot too. He's out of Oklahoma State, and when you really think about some of these practice squad guys, who are some dudes that can maybe have a potential to end up making the roster a little bit later on? When the Raiders announced that they weren't going to be bringing back John Brown, I was like, hey, wait a minute. This Stoner kid is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So what I want you guys to do now is go down in those comments and who's the best player who got cut yesterday? And I kind of anticipate every single person to go down and say Cam Newton, probably because it's the biggest name. And if you want to do that, hey, it's all good. That's what Chat Sports is all about. But maybe this is the first time you guys have ever come across our show. I mean, I'm watching the live chat right now. Most of the people are saying Cam Newton. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say live show, we go live every single Monday, every single Wednesday, usually 3 p.m. Eastern time. But because cuts and some other stuff got wild today, we didn't quite start on time. But all I'm saying is this: if you want to join our live shows, please go ahead, tune in. Let me know, best player who got cut yesterday. How about some other top practice squad players? We got Brett Rypien, or Rypien, however you want to go ahead and say it. He don't rip the ball in there, that's all I know. Shane Buechele, Jake Browning, and then Anontio, Gandy-Golden. For Jake Browning, it's kind of an interesting move considering the fact that, let's face it, the Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks, they did not play very well whatsoever. I mean, there's just no way around it. They barely even scored. The first score that they had on the offensive side of the football came in the final preseason game. Anontio Gandy-Golden, actually a receiver. When he was coming out of Liberty, I liked him a lot. He had a good athletic profile. He was over 6'2", a big old body. Sure, might have been a little bit slower and really dominated on a lower level in terms of college football, but I'm excited to see that Gandy-Golden, ended up going back to the Washington football team. The player that we're going to look at here a little bit more closely, though, is Shane Buechele, who went to SMU, only a 23-year-old guy. But if you're ended up here, right, you had 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Again, obviously, that's in college, but over 3,000 yards. The more and more you get to work in certain NFL systems, the more and more your name's going to grow. And when you're a quarterback, it makes you one of the top guys. So who wants the hookup, right? If you want the hookup, and I'm talking to you, yeah, Matt, you looking at me, Matt? Okay, good. I'm looking at you. If you want the hookup, then I want you to go ahead and type me. And here's the deal that I got going on right now. The first 50 people that type me on this video, okay, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on a later date, the first 50 people, you guys are going to get a link and you're going to get hooked up here. Now, for those of you that maybe are a little bit too slow and you didn't type me, it's okay. We still got you covered. Go to magicspoon.com/chat. $5 off your very first order. If you want to go ahead and get some fruity cereal, I'm telling you what, right now, the best place to get it is at Magic Spoon. Why? 0 grams of sugar, only 4 grams of net carbs, 13 grams of protein. So if you're trying to get into a little bit better shape, this stuff is phenomenal. I remember as a kid growing up, I tell this story a lot on the show, but hey, it's part of the gig, right? Growing up, my mom, she'd be like, hey, what kind of cereal do you want? Obviously, as a kid, I was picking all the shitty ones, and then you look in the mirror, you're 12 years old, you got this horrible-looking mustache covered with acne, I got a beer belly, and I'm wondering why no girls in my high school actually want to go out with me. Well, it's maybe because at that time I was in middle school. But regardless, all I'm saying is this. If you want to look great, if you want to actually still be able to eat some cereal as well, you can go to magicspoon.com/chat. That link link is available for y'all in the chat. It's also in the description, in the comments. We got the hookup. All right, here's some other players that ended up signing. I just saw Lamar Jackson pop up. I'm like, what the? But no, it's the cornerback, not the quarterback. Darian Thompson, Thomas Graham Jr., also related to Harrison, Karl Joseph, and then Jahlani Tavai. One of the names here for Karl Joseph, a first-round pick in 2016. I actually thought he was going to end up making the Raiders roster, but then even Jahlani Tavai is another interesting player name to consider because when you think about it, he was with the Detroit Lions, right? And then ends up now going to the New England Patriots. He had a good connection with Matt Patricia for even somebody like this who had 58 tackles last year, no sacks. You could probably say, you know what, maybe it was just a bad fit for him. He was, I believe, a second-round pick, 43rd overall in the 2019 draft out of Hawaii, but he's going to end up going back to New England. And then for Karl Joseph, I thought he actually had a halfway decent offseason. He did play a lot in that final preseason game, but the biggest reason here why the Raiders didn't decide to keep him, they didn't know how healthy he was going to be and how much they could depend on him. I actually think the Pittsburgh Steelers got an absolute steal going out and getting Karl Joseph. So this is what I want you guys to do. Sip on the haterade a little bit. Which team in the NFL has the worst roster? And this probably should say, which team in the NFL has the worst roster besides the Houston Texans? I mean, no disrespect to Houston, but I mean, is anybody down there in these comments right now going to say anything besides Houston? I mean, I see one of the live chats says, Stephen Curry says, hi, Daddy. I ain't your daddy. As long as I know, I don't have anything to look forward to on Father's Day besides giving my dad a shout-out. We got SM says Texans. I got Jay Moose saying Texans. The Houston Texans. Then we got one. C. Garcia 54 said the Cincinnati Bengals. That's just another way for me for that. He just said that, hey, I'm a Houston Texans fan. All right, what about some other top cut days surprises? Now, these were some players when Cam Newton got released by the New England Patriots. I was like, oh, shit, that sounds kind of wild. Bill Belichick came out and said that had nothing to do with his vaccination status. Sorry, I'm going to call BS on that there, Bill. Jimmy Moreland, a very talented cornerback that I liked a lot, came out of James Madison. I believe was a 5th-round pick. He is hurt right now. It sounds like he's going to be ready for week 1, but they did also just put him on the reserve list, so I believe he's actually back on the roster. And then Malcolm Butler retired. There was a report earlier in the week that was like, hey, Butler could end up retiring. He's been contemplating it here. So now for Arizona, they're going to be going out and looking for another cornerback. Speaking of Cam Newton, as soon as Cam Newton was cut, one of the things that I think we do a phenomenal job here at Chat Sports is not only giving you guys news, rumors, not only interacting, like that's all fun. My favorite videos to do here is when insert player name gets released. Now let's figure out the top destinations for him. So if that's the kind of videos that you like, we don't want to just give you the surface level content. That shit's boring. We want to be able to go above and beyond. So if you haven't seen our Cam Newton destinations video yet, please go check it out. It's also, you can go ahead and subscribe. That way you never miss any videos here at Chat Sports.